In my world there is music and good vibes and laughter and lovers, adventure and friendship. We know who we are.
Welcome to Be the Wellness Podcast, where we help you master your body, mind, and the experience of life through insightful conversation, interviews with experts and thought leaders, all with a side of marital banter and some good old-fashioned humor.
Yes, we are your hosts, Adam and Vanessa Lambert, and we're committed to helping you live life fully expressed physically, mentally, and experientially. Sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation.
Hello, everybody. Adam and Vanessa Lambert back at you with another podcast.
It's
Maybe
true.
it's a sad cast.
It's definitely a different energy around here today, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we should probably just jump into it.
Let's do it.
So,
yeah, it's probably been one of the deepest experiences of our lives here in the last few days, having to say goodbye to our beloved Penelope.
yeah, our little white puffball who, a lot of you guys have probably seen. And if you're not clear between the white puffballs, there's Daisy and Penelope was our firstborn.
Mm-hmm.
She was with us for 16 and a half years.
Yeah.
Like almost to the day.
Yeah. And, we've been so affected by her loss. And the thing is, when you're grieving, it's really easy to sort of clam up and to sort of want to go away and do it in privacy and do it silently. But one of the most cathartic things you can do is speak to your pain.
Yeah.
And share with people, just, how devastated you are. And I think that for us, this podcast has been a place where we've shared so deeply who we are and what's real for us that it just felt like so important to just speak to this loss in our life.
Yeah.
And, just what a deep impact that little dog was on our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And anybody who was fortunate enough to spend, she would 5 minutes, you know what I mean? It's like she could get it done. She could get the hooks in like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
And if anybody got to spend any more time than that with Penelope over the years, you just know.
Yeah.
It's like everybody says, they're like, oh man, what a special little dog, and she really, really was, like at so many levels, and just to get kind of the technicals out of the way, she's, 16 and a half. Bichons, they live a while, right? So it was not like we were hoping for 18, like all these years ago, we were like, Penelope better make it to 18. And
I secretly wanted 20, but
yeah, that felt like a reach.
Yeah.
But it really, she's had really no health issues. We've just taken such good care of her and fed her, basically a better diet than we eat, and we eat pretty good.
Totally.
And she just kind of, over the last few months has started to get tired, and I don't know, like maybe 2 weeks ago or something like that, she was like feeling kind of especially tired, but still running around and carrying on and
having her moments.
She had the spark in her eye, and she was very much still Penelope,
Yeah.
And then, 3 days ago, I guess she just really slowed down, and it was, she was barely eating and barely drinking and just sleeping 20 hours a day. And, the light was just fading, she was alive and not in any kind of pain. And, she'd get up and go outside and go to the bathroom, but she just wasn't the same dog, And then day before yesterday, she just really started to fade, and she had a really bad night. She woke up, or didn't wake up. Was like seizing in her sleep kind of a thing. And it was probably like a 20-minute ordeal, but it's the first and only time in her entire life that it was obvious that she was in distress, and it was it was terrible.
It was terrible. Yeah. Yeah. And it's pretty crazy because, 3 days ago, I walked into the room and she was laying on the bed and she lifted up her head and she said to me, like, clear as any message I've ever received from her, like, I'm dying. And it was so like distinct and clear that it was shocking to me, that in that moment I was like, trying to kind of, I know like that's coming. And, having this idea that like that, yes, obviously she's 16 and we know that's coming, but she was telling me, like it's happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, over the next 3 days, I mean, she just went down, and that night was just the evidence that we needed. That, we actually called the vet in the middle of the night thinking we had to bring her in. And just as we called the vet, she sort of settled down and, we talked to the vet and decided she could wait till morning to just come in and get some tests. And, obviously, like, we sort of knew at that moment, but there's that small little glimmer of hope, like, well, maybe, maybe there's just
something going on,
an infection or like just something treatable, and when the vet got her test results, she was basically in liver failure and
her kidneys. Yeah.
Sorry, kidney failure. Yeah. And she just said, at this point, there's really nothing to do. And, she recommended, that we put her to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's, had we not had the night that we had before where she was obviously in distress, it would have been a much more difficult decision, but like in the moment, like we didn't share this that night, but both of us were like, oh my God, how in this situation right now, like what can we do to put her out of her misery? And we didn't talk about it, but like afterwards we did, and we both like had this thought because it was so traumatic and so terrible that in our minds, it was like,
we just wanted her to stop suffering.
It's like, and in the morning she was great. She had a nice little morning. She, I mean, she didn't eat, she didn't drink any water. She, but she had a sweet little morning and she was awake.
Yeah.
And, so when the vet said that all of her markers for her kidneys were through the roof, like so far that the tests that they had couldn't even register. So they were like trying to dilute the samples to get a real clear picture of what's going on. And, renal failure is like, there's just, it's a problem in humans with all of the best technology and catching it as early as possible, and so I think her recommendation was smart. It's like, she's not going to come back. You know what I mean? She's not going to be your dog anymore. The dog that you knew, and the odds of her suffering are so high that, I mean, it's just terrible. Like it's just, it's a terrible situation,
Yeah.
But our feeling was that one bad night, 16 and a half good years.
Yes.
And one bad night is the way to, go.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like, gosh, to prepare for this experience is, obviously when your dog is this age that this is coming, but there's really like, it's shocking to me. And Adam and I have actually experienced a good deal of loss in our life. We've had grandparents and friends and deep, people that we love deeply in our lives. And this loss has been one of the greatest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's shockingly painful. And, I remember Dr. Guy Winch, when he was on talking about, some of the greatest losses. And in fact, he'd written a book that was about loss, and pet loss was a big component of it, because it's so deeply, deeply painful when something is so integral in your life and such a part of every moment, and I've said this before, that it's like, I didn't know where I ended and Penelope began. Like we were such a unit, like, and Adam, you were even saying that, like, every step you take, you're looking for her. Like, is she behind me? And, it's integrated into the very fabric of your movement, of your sight, of how you move in the world, to be watching for her and interacting with her. And it's just such a huge gaping hole when that little light is gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't even realize it, until she's gone, how much space you filled up, and for a tiny little dog, she's filled up a lot of space. And I mean, and it's, I've had 2 other dogs, both of which got hit by cars, kind of dying, and they were both great dogs and I loved them deeply. But there's something special about Penelope, and I think about like when she came into our lives. I mean, we got her as a brand new puppy, or she got us actually, was kind of how it went. Like we went and found, a breeder of Bichons, because that's what we're looking for. Vanessa specifically, I couldn't have picked a Bichon out of the lineup at the time. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I should probably just step it back one step further. That there was like a very pivotal moment in my life where I was actually working for the fire department, and this woman, she was walking her little dog, this little black-eyed, button-nosed dog that just sauntered up. And there's a very special kind of Bichon little saunter that folks who are familiar with the breed, it's like this cutest little walk.
Like almost prance, but not quite.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, well, what is this dog? And she said Bichon Frise. And the name just burned in my brain. I was like, this thing is the thing.
Yeah.
And so when Adam and I got married and we, were talking about getting a dog, I was like, I know which dog.
Yeah, I know what we're getting.
Yeah.
And so we happened to have a breeder, like a really good, reputable breeder close by.
Yeah.
And so we went, and there's a whole herd of these little fluff balls crawling around on the carpet, and we just went and sat down and like hung out with them for a minute, and Vanessa actually picked one up and was like holding it for a while and was like, I think this one's the one.
Yeah, there was there was actually 2 of them. I had Penelope on my right side and the other one on the left. And I sort of gestured, I think, to you and said, because we had some friends with us too, but I said to Adam, I think it's this one on the left. And literally, as I said that, Penelope outstretched her arms, pushed that one away, and like snuggled up into my neck.
Yeah. She's like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm the one.
So like she literally chose us. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was, I don't know, we'd been married for like 4 months.
Yeah.
We just bought in a house and we were like, young, doing all the things. And so she has basically been with us our entire marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, so 16 and a half
we'll
years.
Be married
we've been
17 years.
Yeah, we'll be married 17 in October. So it's like, she's so much a part of our relationship and grew up with us.
Yep.
In the way that we grew up together and through different houses and like everywhere we've lived together.
Yeah.
With the exception of my apartment that we first moved into, before we were married.
Right.
She's lived in every single place that we've been, in every car, in our RV, in every one of our friends' houses. Like Penelope has been with us everywhere.
Yeah.
And
yeah. It's why she has her little hashtag Penelope Goes Too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's like it's not just losing a dog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like cutting off your right arm.
It is. Yeah.
It's just, she's just not here anymore,
And it's been just, the comfort that she has brought us over the years through all of the things, in a 17-year marriage, as many of you can imagine, there are so many beautiful highs and so many devastating lows. And she has literally been this comfort, this source of love and consistency and unconditional love in our lives that really has just held that space for us in any moment, in anything that was going on. There was just this unconditional comfort and love that really lasted up until her very final moments. When we finally made the decision, the vet told us, we could do it outside, and we kind of pulled over to this little space. And before we took her out of the car, Adam and I, just held her and started crying. And she had literally been sleeping most of the morning, kind of just in and out. And she came to in that moment and started licking our tears.
Yeah.
And it says so much about who that dog was, because that's who she was for us. Like she comforted us in every moment, in every situation. When I was in the hospital and I came home, she didn't leave my bedside until I did.
Yeah.
Literally she would go pee and get a snack and right back to bed with me. She just was holding that energy so deeply in our hearts until the very last moment when she, came in that moment to comfort us, even when she was the one suffering.
Yeah. She was the one saying goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, she was so good for us, and we were just talking about this morning. Like, she would pester us when we'd been working too long.
Yeah.
Too much time on the phone. And she would not stop until you like put your phone down, got off your laptop, and
went outside
for a walk or on the couch. Like the couch was always an option. But she's like, it's time.
It's time
like
for
you guys
you.
have been doing whatever the hell you're doing for too long. It's time to just come back and be here. And she just had the power to do that.
Yes.
She could make you drop food. she could make you do pretty much anything, that she was interested in,
Yeah. In my, one of my very first ayahuasca journeys, I had a really deep journey around Penelope and just what a masterful healer she was, and how all of those little things, all of those little moments where I'm like, oh, stop annoying me, I'm trying to be on my computer finishing something. I just saw so clearly how she really was there as like this little energy healer. It was like just like what you said, it's time to get off your computer, it's time to snuggle, it's time to be in love, it's time to go outside. Like, she just literally guided us and made sure we were taking care of ourselves. I mean, she just really was such a magical little being in that way, unlike any other dog, any other animal I've ever known to really like guide us and hold us.
Yeah. No, it's true. And it was, so it's like, you could look at this from the outside being like, oh, well, she just wanted attention, or she just wanted to go for a walk, or she just wanted whatever. And so, it was time. But we've got Daisy at the same time. It was like, I'm just laying on the couch. You guys just keep working. Like, do whatever you're going to do as long as I've got food. And there's just something, I don't know if you ever met Penelope, it's just like there's an undeniable presence and wisdom, for lack of a better word, in that little dog, that if you were tapped into it, she was amazing.
Yeah.
Such an amazing little doggy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now the aftermath.
Yeah.
Right. And dealing with all of this. And it's, as Vanessa mentioned, we have some experience with trauma and with death and with losing people and other animals and friends, and just, all of the tragedy that occurs in the world around us. And I think, we've experienced it quite a bit. We have a lot of friends who have committed suicide, died tragically way too young in car accidents and all of the stuff. Plus, the work that we've done with the fire department, and we've seen a lot of it, and when you do that, you develop your tools on how you process grief and sadness and just the reality that this is it can be a harsh and unforgiving world.
Yeah.
And so I think what we've done over the years, and I don't know if it's just unique to our personalities or whatever, but like, we've just kind of, created our own little sunny disposition about how things go. It's like, and I think that experience has gotten us to a point where it really helps us to enjoy the parts of life that are not tragic and not out of control and not harsh and cold, right? It's like, you need, without darkness, light is just a thing. Like, there's no contrast, right? You need that contrast in order to truly appreciate, what's going on. And all that said, this is and continues to be just a very, very deep process, from the bad night and experiencing how terrible that can be, to the nice morning, and then to the news that we knew was coming but we didn't have yet, and to the decision to put our little baby to sleep, and going through that, and then making it home without crashing through tears, you know what I mean? And then ultimately having a sweet, sweet little burial ceremony under a beautiful walnut tree with everyone who could be here, that loves her here, that, and there's catharsis in that, right? And seeing that whole process through and all of that. And yet here we are, and I'll speak to my piece of it. It's like, I'm left in this strange spot with it where normally, and this is a product, I think, of training and experience, is that life goes on, and this was something that you even said when you were on your deathbed, right?
Yeah.
You said life is for the living, and it was something that we really realized with you being essentially in and out for a month, that the world around you continues, and as it should, right? People have to continue to live, and everything just keeps moving, and you're this isolated point in this infinite, sea of points that's having this thing happen, right? And so, like, the way that I've always dealt with that is to compartmentalize and get back to work, on whatever it is that you're doing. It's like, okay, this is sad and it's a thing, but it's affecting my ability to carry on with the rest of the living world, and I'm just going to box it up,
right.
And through a lot of work, in the last handful of years, I've unpacked a lot of those boxes, and one of the things that I have sort of recognized about myself is that that's a tendency to do. And it's a skill set that has served me for sure, but there's also a downside to it. And that downside is that compartmentalization robs you of the real feeling, of the feeling of what's happening, and really allowing the emotion and the experience of this circumstance to sink in. And the beauty that I feel I've missed from compartmentalization in the past, and this ability to do this, or just, I don't know if the ability might not be the right word, but this tendency to do this in the past, is that it takes away from that contrast, right? It's like really, truly, deeply feeling the experience of this loss is sweetening the memories in a way that I wouldn't trade, Yeah. It's like, I just wouldn't trade the feeling that I'm having now for any of the highs that I'm remembering. And, it's like, I'm almost afraid
to let go,
to move on.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to lose this sense of contrast that's making it so sweet,
No, it's so true. I think it's just such a recognition, of the depth of this loss, is just the contrast of how deeply she affected us and how integral she was into like our heart space, Mm-hmm. And it just feels like letting go of the sadness is like letting go of her.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that right there is where you can get stuck.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously this is the closest thing that I would know to losing a child.
Yeah.
And you hear about people, well, not just children, but I think this is one that, is pretty, I don't know if common, but it certainly exists, is that people sometimes don't recover from that, and my gut, my feeling on it is that it feels as though you're forgetting.
Yeah, exactly.
And that being in the depth of the sorrow is the only way that you can keep remembering. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The sweetness of what was there,
Yeah.
And so what do we do about that? Like, how do we harness the good aspects of that without it, becoming, I don't know, problematic, right? And leaning into coping mechanisms like going out and getting another puppy, or, I don't know, drinking yourself to death, or like whatever right. Your particular coping mechanism is, like, how do we stay present with what is here and let it run its course?
I think that's just what we do. Yeah. We just stay present and let it run its course, and I think it's actually just a time in your life to recognize that like there's nothing to fix it. There's nothing to be done. There's just to be with it, and we're, I think, so used to having a plan and having a like, okay, well, if I'm having a sad day, then I go like do a hot cold rinse in the shower and then I meditate for 20 minutes. And then like we have all of these things to hack our physiology because we know that'll influence our mental and emotional body. And I think that this is the one time that we just surrender to it, that it's just the process and that like, there's no hurrying it. There's no slowing it down. There's just literally surrendering to it and just being truly with it. And I think that for us, it's like allowing people in, allowing people to hold space for us, allowing people to grieve with us, not feeling silly about it or dramatic or what all the things that can kind of go into your brain, but just allowing yourself to really be with what's here. It's like, it's just all there is to be done, you know? And there's just no right or wrong way. We just can't force it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that takes me to something that I've thought about Penelope, and I mean, basically yesterday, I guess, is really when I kind of came to this realization. But there's, my upbringing and just the general culture and everything that I've done in my life, there has not been a lot of room for being soft. You know what I mean? It's just, there just isn't, it's like when you grow up in the middle of nowhere there's the animal husbandry and working on ranches and doing all of that kind of stuff is you deal with a lot of things that could just be totally tragic. Right. And it's like animals get eaten and just crazy shit's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, there's that aspect of it. So you harden yourself a little bit to that, and then certainly in the job, that's like, you just can't, you cannot function in that job if you wear your heart on your sleeve,
Right.
And so Penelope was like this one place that I got to be completely soft.
Yeah.
And I see it in fathers, especially with their young daughters, and like, I can remember one of my best friends growing up, his dad was like the quintessential cowboy, he laughed sometimes, but it was like, everything was hard. It was just hard, not like physically hard, but he was just cut out of stone, and his older sister had a baby, Brittany, in high school, and seeing him play with that baby girl was like, it was an entirely different person, and it gave him an excuse, to be goofy and to be silly and to, run around the house like a monkey and like whatever made her laugh, whatever made her happy, he would do, and it was interesting to see that. I'm like, whoa, and so you see that, I think, with fathers and daughters and I'm sure sons too, but like that one just kind of sticks in my mind, And so here's this little fluffy dog, and there's actually a picture of me at the CrossFit games, because back in the day you could bring your dog to the CrossFit games. And so here we are, like the pinnacle of just hardcore fitness, and here's this like firefighter Fran, the fire captain that did Fran and his freaking turnouts and all of this stuff, and he's carrying this little fluffy dog around, and it was okay, because if you met Penelope, you're like, oh shit, man, I don't care who you are. You could be like the mountain from freaking Game of Thrones and you're going to like melt, when Penelope's around. And so like, she was my window into softness and sweetness. And it was like an acceptable way for me to do that, because who doesn't love Penelope,
Yeah.
And it's like, so now not having her, there's this sense of like, even in this conversation, it's like, oh, are people going to think I'm a softie because, I'm so heartbroken by the loss of my dog, and I just don't care, at the end of the day, I'm just like, these are the feelings, and this is really who I am, I care so deeply about the things that I care about, and Penelope was one of them, I mean, she was just my little princess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really special to see that too, especially knowing all of that about you, to see that space where you could be soft. And it was really another gift that she gave us, was just that space she cultivated for you to be that gentle giant that you really are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It was,
scoop.
I mean, it was so crazy when it happened, because I probably texted 30 people to tell them that we're literally Penelope's friends.
Right. We got to get on Penelope's phone.
Yeah. It was just, it was a crazy thing. And every text, every person I reached out to, it was like they completely felt that loss with us, and so deeply, because Penelope was their friend too. She was so special. It's really difficult to explain, but she just had her own life that was so beyond us.
Yeah.
Her own way of connecting that was beyond us. And it was something really to behold.
Yeah. Yeah. We would go. So she went, I don't remember, you'll have to remind me of the chronology of how all of this stuff worked out. But she ended up going to a party, right, with somebody else. Somebody was dog sitting. Maybe Nadia was dog sitting and went to a party with friends in LA. And then we came later. To another party, and brought Penelope, and everybody knew Penelope.
They're like, we didn't. You're Penelope's parents.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh my God, she's the best. And we were instantly in because we came with Penelope, totally. And that was just her jam. And she knew where we were. We'd show up at this one house in particular. She's like, oh man, you open the door, and she's like, runs to the side gate and around into the back where everybody is. And she's trotting around in there, and you just hear Penelope coming from everywhere. Oh man.
Yeah, I know. It was just, I think it's why this loss is just so deep. It's just, in every facet of our life, this little girl was embedded and so deeply, deeply loved. And it's just, she became an extension of us, an extension of like our physical being almost. And it just is it is really like losing a piece of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something that we always talked about, because our retreats, we've never been able to bring, Penelope in. And it's something that we're just like, God, here we are with all of our people at these retreats, and we're trying to, share the aspect of ourselves and what we, think are important about the world, which I guess is what we're doing at our retreats,
Yeah.
And there's this huge piece missing, because none of you guys have met Penelope, until Montana.
Yeah. Yeah. And then people got a little glimpse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone out there, for just allowing us to do this. And for those of you who tuned in, I know you tuned in because, there was something inside of you that wanted to hold space for us. And, this is not your traditional podcast, but I guess it never really has been. And, it just means so much to us that people have showed up with such deep, deep love. And, again, I think it's just a reflection of how the energy that she held, and just the knowingness that people have of what an important piece she was in our hearts, and just knowing us. And it's been a few days now, and it's like our friends keep texting, they keep calling. They know what a great loss this is for us. And it just really means a lot for us that anyone out there is listening is doing it, because it's just their way to hold us in this moment. Yeah. And we feel that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. And, there's just something extra special, about the connection that's formed with your pets.
Yeah.
And I'm not a cat person. I've never had a connection with a cat, but I assume that occurs, but certainly with dogs and with horses, to a degree, if you have enough time, we grew up together evolutionarily.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you look at domesticated horses and domesticated dogs, we've been co-evolving, for a really long time, and they fill a niche, we fill a niche for them and they fill a niche for us. And there's just something about it,
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I think I lost a cat that was very special, our family cat, when I was a senior in high school that was with us. And it was a deep loss, and obviously a little different because it was like our family cat. And,
right.
But yeah, we feel this loss so deeply. And I think that it's just so important to share your grief. It's so helpful to the process to let people in, to really just be vulnerable and open up these spaces in your heart, because we need each other.
Yeah.
We need to feel that softness that we're being held in these moments.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just encourage people to pay attention to that feeling that can arise inside when you think something's not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know, and I've been this person before. I'm like, oh, your cat died, or, your dog died. Oh, okay. Well, now let's just go back to life. Right. Because it's hard to know, it's hard unless you've really experienced it. It's hard to know. And it's a great opportunity, I think, for us to practice empathy and compassion and just show up for our people, And I mean, and if there's something that we've learned so far in 2020, is that there are people having experiences different than yours of this world. It's like we're all here in this world, and there are people that may even be your neighbors that are having a dramatically different experience of this world than you are, and it's not only, it's not only real that it's happening, but I think it's really important that we develop the skill set of understanding when someone is having an experience that's different than yours and being able to show compassion. Even if you don't agree, with what's going on, like the compassion component it's so important, and it's like at the end of the day, like if you were to boil down community, like the feeling of truly feeling safe and at home with the people around you, it's that you trust that they can empathize with you and have compassion for your experience, and so if you don't know your neighbors, you know what I mean? If you don't know the people around you and you don't take the time or make the effort to exercise that compassion muscle when you're dealing with folks, I don't know that we're moving the ball forward. I mean, divisiveness and separation are like the enemy of empathy and compassion, and it's, I don't know. That's it. That's all I have to say about that. So adopt a dog.
Thank you all so much again from the bottom of our hearts. It's been such a deep experience, and there's really no words. So we just appreciate you all. We love you all. We hope you are holding your kids, each other, your pets tight, cherishing every single moment you have. And, we hear this all the time, like, you just never know how much time you have. So hold your people tight. But, one of the most important things Penelope taught me in her final years was just to slow down and to make space. She got older. She couldn't walk as fast. I had to slow down and take time for her. I had to be patient. I had to be with the reality of her limitations. And I had to find that patience and cultivate that compassion inside of me. And so, if you find yourself rushing through things, you find yourself getting irritated by the moment because it requires you to be more present or to find that compassion and that patience, just remember how finite this experience is. And when you look back, how are you going to want to remember those moments? And I can tell you that I'm so grateful that I can look back and think, wow, I really was patient with her. I was patient with her aging process. I was present with her. And that is a gift that you carry forward forever.
Yeah.
So just be patient with each other.
Yeah.
Be loving with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, regret would be a layer in this process that would be really hard to move through.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are so, so grateful that we can look back on our life with Penelope and just think no regrets.
Yeah.
We loved her all the way. All the time. In all the ways for all of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Even in arguably the hardest moment, which is in making the choice to lose her forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we love you, little Penelope.
Oh, little Scoop.
We're so thankful you chose us, and we loved you so much. We love you for always and ever. And we know you're with us right now, all around us. I could see you in the trees this morning and the flowers. And I really feel your presence all around me. So thank you. I loved being your mommy.
Oh, such a sweet dog. What a sweet little life.
Thank you all. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.